Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at ThunderWizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at ThunderWizard.com. Get ready, because here I come. Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and I'm here to answer questions. And yes, of course, this is the home of the world's only unified energy system called Lightning Qigong, where you can learn Qigong, the power of life force energy, which is called Qi or Prana, and Kundalini, which is the fire serpent energy that rises up the spine and opens up the chakras and has to do with human psychic development and the development of the evolution of your human psyche. And the third energy, which to my knowledge has not been publicly taught, which is the lightning power that normally remains dormant in the heart, called the heart-mind energy, or also the Emperor's bodyguard. It is the power of lightning that can be released through the body, and we talk about that. We will talk about that in this video. So this is the only place where you're going to find that unified energy system. To get started, go to Warrior 90-Day Challenge Lightning Qigong and subscribe. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. If you don't like the practices, you've got nothing to lose. All right, so today I'm going to be answering some questions. I'm going to be answering some questions about what you can do to learn everything I know about the heretofore secret Maoshan energy practices. And I'm going to answer some questions having to do with how to end suffering, my experience and my path on exactly how to do that. And this channel is devoted to that, a path to end your limited suffering. So let's start with that question first. And this person is asking the question in the context of Buddhism. So they say, the Four Noble Truths comprise the essence of Buddha's teachings, though they leave much unexplained in this person's opinion. They are the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. And then the question is, how do we end suffering, Thunder Wizard, and what's that path look like? That's a great question. So let me just first say I am not a Buddhist. So I cannot comment deeply on the path of Buddhism. But I can tell you my thoughts, my experiences of it, and why I'm not a Buddhist. I have nothing against Buddhism. In fact, some of the things of Buddhism that I know and relate to, I think are obviously, not that the Buddha needs my praise, but really amazing stuff. For me, what the path of Buddhism teaches is how not to be attached to what I call my origin story. You know, everything you are right now and every reaction you have. I was about to use somebody else as an example, but I won't. Every reaction you have, positive or negative, is a reaction to something that's already within you, which is your origin story. The story of who you are, what makes you up, what happened to you, the programming that you learned from your parents, from past lives, etc., etc., etc. So those are the things that actually push your buttons to create your reactions, and that is where, in my opinion, all of your suffering starts from. So one of the great things about Buddhism and emptiness meditation is the idea that you just simply observe all of your thoughts and emotional reactions, and you have them, you experience them, but you observe them. And the idea is to go, wow, look at that. That's not me. That's coming from what I would call my origin story. This is how I was programmed to believe I was supposed to respond to all of these different things. So that's the thing that I love about Buddhism. One of my most favorite, probably actually the most favorite Buddhist passage I've read is a supposedly Buddha is there with all of his disciples, and one of them comes to him and says, "Tathagata, the perfected one, I've been with you X amount of years or months or however long it was. I've been with you X amount of time, and through that time, I've been waiting for you to tell us what is the nature of the soul, where do we go after death, do the gods exist, is there a heaven, is there a hell?" And he says, "You haven't answered any one of these questions, so when are you going to answer?" And he lists again all of the questions that he has. You know, what happens after we die? What's going on with the soul? Are there gods? Are there demons? Blah, 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 blah. To which Buddha responds, "When did I ever tell you I was going to tell you?" And then he lists all the questions. He says, "I never said that I was going to answer those questions, and I never will. So if you want to hang out with me, you're never going to get the answer to that question. The only thing that I've ever taught is that attachment leads to suffering." And that's beautiful. I love that. And so this whole idea of suffering has to do with non-attachment. Now, that to me, I agree with your characterization of it, and it's just my opinion. If I was a Buddhist, I might have a completely different opinion of it. But you and I share the same experience, probably is the best way to look at it, which is that there's a lot left. There's a lot more that needs to go on besides explaining suffering and the end of suffering. Because if we just look at it from that perspective, for me, my experience is that it's very passive. And in my experience, life doesn't work like that, that the only thing you need to do is get rid of the pain. Because in my experience, pain is not just about what happens when you are attached or when you have expectations. Perfect example. As you know, surfing is my thing. I left Australia to come here to Florida, not because I wanted to, but because my visa was up and all of the pandemic nonsense and all of the things associated with that, I had to. And so I chose to come here because this was the closest that I could think of where I would be able to avoid certain restrictions that I can't talk about here on YouTube, and also have warm weather and surfing. Now, I'd never been to Florida in my life, so I had no idea what to expect. I've come here, and it's very different than what I was hoping for. And so today I looked at the surf report for the next few days, and I planned on going surfing today because today the wind was going to be good. And according to when I looked at it, there was going to be surfable sized waves. Well, sure enough, I get there, and the actual reality and the forecast are different, and the waves it was unsurfable. I mean, it was very depressing and made me very sad for all kinds of reasons. And that's because I had an expectation. My expectation was not met, which created suffering. That is another explanation of sadness. When you have an expectation, people need to act this way, this has to happen in life. You know, when you have expectations over things you have no control over, like I have no control over the weather. I have no control over that. And so, for me to have an expectation for 3 days that, on this day, Friday, the waves are going to be really good because I've waited all week and I get there and there's no waves, that's out of my control. And I started to get really sad and I started to feel sorry for myself. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to invest in that. I am sad, I am disappointed, and that's okay. There will be other days. They will come. I have no getting upset over something I have no control over. It's a waste of my time. What I do have control over is I can make this video, I can go to the gym, I can practice the Maoshan, which we're going to talk about later in this video. I have a lot of things I have control over. I have control over accepting, feeling all my feelings, and then choosing to stay positive and trusting that things will continue to work out the way that I want, and that my life, I will be able to have again my fantasy. However that manifests, we don't know yet, but I'm certain that I will have my fantasy again. So that to me would be an end of suffering. But the way you've presented it, which is probably how it's often presented in Buddhism, is that the only thing we need to do is get rid of this problem called suffering. And once we get rid of suffering, we'll be okay. But then what? Then what? I mean, then that sounds really boring to me. So life isn't just the cessation of suffering. That's only one part of it. The other part of it is the fulfillment of desires. Now, this is where I hear a lot of Buddhists get in conflict. Oh, desires are bad. You can't have any desires. That causes suffering. No, expectations and expectations and trying to control, and that causes suffering when things don't go exactly the way you think you want them to go. But to me, what is the greatest goal is not just to end suffering, but to achieve full, complete satisfaction for my soul. So my soul has desires. My soul wants to experience things in three-dimensional life. Buddhism, again, depending on who you talk to, the feeling I get is that, human life is a punishment. You know, our lack of awareness or our lack of evolution or our lack of enlightenment or our sins or our mistakes have pulled us down into this illusion, and then it's full of suffering, and there's this continual reincarnation cycle full of suffering. And I don't think that's the full picture. That's not how I see things at all. The way that I see things is that this is a place of very challenging fun for the soul. And the way to achieve the bliss and the fulfillment of the soul, which will result in enlightenment, is to actively go after what makes you happy. So my response to you, I said lovingly, I said, you're showing how little of my material you have seen. Watch my videos or read my book on the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. And I mean that. You can watch on this channel, you can go to the playlists and find the shamanic secret commandment to the perfect life. And you can listen to me read the book. You want to get the book yourself? Great. You can go to Amazon or you can click on courses.thunderwizard.com, find my books. And if you just type that into Amazon or, click on michaelwilliamdenny.com, you can find that book and you can have it in your hot little hands, either a Kindle version or a paperback. And if you master what's in that little book, you can achieve what I believe, which is even more profound than the cessation of suffering, which is the fulfillment of your soul's desires. So there's my answer to that question. The next question has to do with this unified spiritual energy practice, which to my mind has never been taught in the history of the world, nor is it being taught by anybody else unless they're teaching my system, which is the unification of Qigong, Kundalini, and the lightning center energy, the heart-mind energy of the Maoshan. Now, to my knowledge, the only people who mastered this energy were the people, the Taoists, called the Maoshan. Now, Maoshan is a mountain, and it was actually the first modern Taoist sanctuary, and that was almost 2,000 years ago. And it was from that Maoshan monastery that all of the other Maoshan mountains and temples came from. But these Maoshan guys had a secret inner door practice that not any of the other, to my knowledge, not any of the other Maoshan, any of the Taoist practices had, and that was to open up the energy centers of the heart, having to do with the lightning energy which surrounds the heart. So let's be clear about what that is. Taoism, if you know anything about Taoism, which is the indigenous shamanic practice of China, it's actually a polytheist religion. A lot of people think of it in terms of Lao Tzu, and they think reading Lao Tzu's book is Taoism. No, he was there was probably more than one person who took on the name Lao Tzu and wrote into the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is a philosophical book about Taoist mindset, but Taoism was a polytheist religion, very particular polytheist religion with very serious rituals and gods and goddesses and all kinds of what the Hindus would call tantric, which means ritualistic kinds of things. A very intense religion. So these Taoists also were the people who discovered and perfected very intense energy practices, which you've heard of, which are called Qigong. So Qigong means work with life force energy. Qi means life force energy, and Gong means work. So anything that increases or purifies life force energy in the body is considered Qigong. There's other things like Negong, which means internal work, which is also another word that can talk about a specific type of energy work, but it's also sometimes just called Qigong as well. So the practice that I have, the lightning Qigong, would more accurately be described as a Negong, an internal work. But it doesn't mean that we don't do external stuff as well. So there is, we've talked about this many times, but let me remind you, there are 3 dantians. There are 3 centers, and each one of these centers deals with higher vibration of energies. They are collection points, and they are what do you call it? They are cauldrons. So what is a cauldron? When you purify gold, you heat it up and you put the gold in a cauldron, and all of the impurities come to the surface. You take off the impurities, and what you have left is the pure gold. And so that is the metaphor. When you work with different cauldrons, you're purifying the energy. The most important one is the navel center. In fact, you probably shouldn't even worry about these other 2 unless you're being specifically taught how to do it. You should work with energy and have the lower dantian, the navel center, purified. And so in other Qigong systems, which is pretty much every other Qigong system, you have the energy works through what I call the right hand, I don't call it, it is the right hand path, which is the path of discipline. And that path is, you go from Jing, which is physical, sexual fluids and energy, to Qi, which is life force energy, to Shen. Shen is the masculine expression of the soul. It's actually, the soul is masculine energy, and it's called Shen. And it's in the heart center. So the Shen, the soul, sits in the heart center. And then you have the left-hand path, which is the inner door Maoshan practice, which they kept to themselves. They didn't share with any of the other mountains, which is why you won't find it anywhere else. The inner door practice is the feminine stimulation of power, which is Qi to Shi, which is the lightning energy of the heart, to Yi, which is intent. So these guys who practice the left-hand path access the lightning energy of the heart. So the soul sits here, and the soul is yang energy. Your soul is yang. The energy of this doesn't have anything to do with gender. That's something else. But the energy of it is yang. It's a masculine vibrational energy. And that has to be balanced by yin, the feminine. So the feminine is lightning, and it surrounds that soul, keeps it from being damaged by the harshness of our four-dimensional human reality. So normally the path for most humans, the safe path, is to work the Jing to Qi to Shen, to have awareness and knowledge of your soul. But the other path is to work on the feminine energy, the lightning energy, which is similar. Kundalini is feminine and Kundalini is fire. So you're told that fire is masculine, which is true. But everything, even fire, has a masculine and a feminine. And so these guys, actually, and girls, because it was the only monastery that accepted women, and women were very powerful, obviously, because this is a feminine path. They learned how to tap into this lightning energy and release it into the body. And to our great, luck and well-being, one of the fastest ways to open this is knowing what physical movements you can do, which literally flip the switches in your meridians to release this lightning energy into your whole body. That is the path that I am teaching. So I am teaching you the Qi power, which is the right-hand path, the Kundalini, which is the fire of the psyche, and the feminine path of the lightning power, the feminine fire surrounding the heart. And so that is what is being taught in this lightning Qigong. Am I doing that right? Let me see. Yeah, up in the Thunder Wizard Lightning Qigong. Now, I've just got a question having to do with that. That's why I'm leading up to all this. So this person asks, question: when you're pulling energy into your body, is that a breath going out or in? At the same time, when you're bringing energy into your body, is that a movement coming towards your body or pulling your hands out? Right now, I'm practicing when my hands are coming in and I am exhaling, and when my hands are going out, I'm breathing in. Is this correct? So even if you go onto the free YouTube channel and you look for Thor's belt, you will see me. I can't show you here because you can't see my navel, but I have my hands in front of my navel, and I'm inhaling, pulling the energy out, and exhaling and pushing the energy in. What I'm really doing is I'm expanding. My intention is to expand and contract the energy in the navel center. So this question makes an assumption which I want you to get rid of. Qigong isn't just about pulling energy into the body. Now, the truth is, if you follow the masculine path, the right-hand path, that is what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you that when you inhale, you're bringing energy in. When you exhale, you're releasing energy. This is true. When you inhale, your lungs fill with energy, and when you exhale, you're releasing stale energy. So it's okay to see it that way, but in the Lightning Qigong, we go beyond those intellectualizations. So in other words, when you sit there and you do the practice of the Thor's belt, and you inhale and you pull the hands out, and you exhale and you contract them in, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. You don't have to. In other words, the assumption is I have to intellectually be thinking that I'm pulling energy in, and that's not true. You just have to do the practice. The energy, the technique will do all of the work for you. And it's after the fact that you can make the decision about what it feels like to me is this is what's happening. But this idea that your question assumes that you need to intellectually know what the intent is, and you don't. In fact, you don't have to have any intention whatsoever. You can just be sitting, inhale, pull the hands out, exhale, pull them in. So when you say that when your hands are coming in, you're exhaling, and when your hands are going out, you're breathing in, that is the same thing that I do. So continue to do that. The instructions are very clear. I do my best to make very clear instructions. But the truth is, you could do the opposite. You could exhale and pull the hands out, and inhale and pull the hands in. Or that's what's going on. You could do the opposite. Exhale as you pull in, inhale as you pull out. It would still work. So what the breath is doing is not as important. The breath lots of times just regulates itself, especially when you get into the Maoshan practice. You don't exhale and then inhale. The breath regulates itself as you're doing the movements. All right, so it's a great question, but based on what I'm hearing, stop thinking about it, stop intellectualizing it. You can if you want, but and as I said, you can do both. You can inhale as you pull the hands out, or you can exhale as you pull the hands out. And inhale as you pull the hands in, or exhale as you pull the hands in. You'll have a different experience, and then you can play around with the energy, and then you can figure out for yourself what the energy does. And that's what happens at later stages. But in the beginning stages, it's good to follow my directions to the letter and do your best, but don't get bent out of shape about trying to get it perfect. Do your best to follow my directions. What's most important is just to do the practice and let go of the mind. Let the energy do its own thing. Okay? Now, you asked me it's not really, it is a question, even though you don't say question, but it's a question. It's a request. You're making a request. You say, I would like to learn everything regarding your life path into Maoshan. I first look at that and I go, why do you need to learn my life path? And then you say later, which I appreciate, you explain why. Later in it, you say, I would like to understand what it will take to learn all that you know in this regard. So, surfing, you're a surfer. If I remember correctly, you're a surfer. So that's like somebody who's never surfed before coming to you with their brand new surfboard and saying, I want to know exactly what it's going to be like for me. And, you try and teach them, you put them on a surfboard, you tell them to do like this, you teach them how to stand up. But once they get out there, all of that goes out the window. They can't barely, they can't stand on this thing on top of the water. They can barely, and what ends up happening is what? Through experience, your body, your nervous system learns to instinctively learn how to do it. And now you don't have to think about when you go out surfing, okay, paddle like this and stand up. You don't have to do it. It's an instinctual thing. It's like riding a bike. You're asking me what it will take to learn all that I know. I have no idea, and neither do you. And there is nothing I could say to you that will give you an idea of what it is that you need to know. And again, I don't know what the question is. But just in general, in my experience, this is an ineffective strategy for not only life, but spiritual energetic learning. Trying to get to the finish line before you've even, put on your running shorts. It's a waste of time. You have to experience it yourself. What is it going to take for you to learn everything that I know, assuming that you'll even be able to do that? I've been doing this for 30 years. How are you going to cram my 30 years of experience into, a week? How long? What is it? This is not a helpful mindset. What is helpful is to be in the moment and grow in the moment. And each time that you practice, to have evolved or expanded or strengthened yourself further than where you were last time. Because there is no end game here. Although I can say that I have learned everything that my teacher knew. I don't know that I gained his level of energy, but in terms of the things and the practices and how to do them, I learned everything he had to teach. But he didn't learn everything that his teacher knew, because I've since learned some things that my teacher didn't know that his teacher did. I've also learned things that his teacher didn't know. Not because he didn't have access to it. He just didn't want to learn it. And I know that I haven't achieved my teacher's level of energy. His level of energy was far beyond what I think I'm, destined to have in this life. In fact, I've stopped trying to get to that level. It's just I got to such a powerful level that I just went, there's nothing beyond this. But I remember wanting to be more powerful than my teacher. I remember that was a goal that I had, to get his level of power and beyond. And I think that's good. I think a student should want to be better than their teacher. Usually what will happen is at some point they'll realize, there's really no point it's not about that. It's about just me being, reaching my potential, whatever that is. My teacher's teacher's teacher didn't even know what his teacher, which is the founder of this actual internal martial sect, he was, as far as we know, the founder of it. We don't know if he learned it from somebody else or if he channeled these practices. The 5 element practices, the Maoshan, that was channeled by my teacher's teacher's teacher. So this is the essence of the Maoshan. The essence of the Maoshan is channeling. And the things that I've created, there's things that I've created, practices that I've channeled that I teach. And that is Maoshan as well. Maoshan isn't, there's this body of knowledge and therefore you're Maoshan. Yes, there's some truth to that. Just to give you an example, I have a lineage brother. So there's somebody who's been in the lineage. He didn't learn the spirit fighting martial arts. He learned the meditative, the Qigong, directly from my teacher's teacher's teacher. But so we're like cousins in the lineage, but he has information that I don't have, and I have information he doesn't have. But we're both Maoshan, because we both have the ability to tap into this heart energy. We both have the ability to tap in directly to the ascended masters, who are the lineage holders in the ethereal realm, who channel to us, who teach us. This is a living practice. That's the one thing about this Maoshan practice. It is a living practice. And when you start doing the exercises that flip on the switches in your body to open up that lightning energy, then you will be potentially a vessel to channel new practices that I've not come up with or nobody else in the world has ever come up with. So the idea of wanting to learn everything that I know isn't necessarily going to serve you. I don't want it. For instance, my lineage brother, I made the decision after, I did learn, by the way, I did learn some very powerful things from him, some of the things that I teach to you. But I came to the conclusion I didn't want to follow his path and learn everything that he had. And he probably made the same decision about my path, because he could have chosen to learn the spirit fighting martial arts and he chose not to. So you may make some decisions about where you want to go with it. So I want to disavow you of that. There's a forgive me for saying so, there's a neediness about it. The need to know everything I know. And there's also a presumption about it. So can you feel like the intensity of what it, I can feel that coming from you. On the one hand, it's good because you need that intense desire to learn and to master and to experience, that will drive you. But even if you took just one of the standing postures, let's say the thunder posture, if you just took that thunder posture and you made that the focus of your life, that you were going to master everything associated with that posture, you would far surpass my understanding of it. And you could, from that one posture, create a whole thunder practice, Maoshan practice. You could download and transmit and create your own stuff. Things that I've never even considered, that works in ways I haven't even begun to understand. So do yourself a favor, drop that idea. Second thing is that you ask for my email. You say you have my email, and then you ask me to, let's see, up here, you ask me if I can email you, or if you can email me, and then you say you want to just have a few minutes of my time so that, what is exactly you say? If I can talk to you for a few minutes, I would like to understand what it will take to learn. So just to let you know, that doesn't serve you either. So do you see how presumptuous and how entitled that sounds? I have people who've been studying with me for years, and they all follow the same protocol. If they want access to me and talk to me one-on-one privately, they have to pay for a session. So you can go to career.thunderwizard.com, scroll to the bottom and pay for a session, or you can become an apprentice and pay for having monthly sessions with me. But if I don't give out my email and my phone number to people that have been working with for years, or people who've been subscribed for a long time, they don't have direct access to me. For you to ask for that is, it's offensive to them. Why would I do that? That would be like, if I'm standing there and I'm teaching my students who I've been teaching for years, and not any of them, only some of them get to work with me because of my time, get to work with me one-on-one. That would be like you just walking in off the street and saying, hey, I've decided you're going to be my teacher. Let me talk to you for a few minutes. I would say, no, you can go talk to my assistant instructor and he'll tell you everything you need to know. And then you would have to earn that. Not because I'm anything special, but just because, you understand? So that may not be something you have personal experience in, but that's how we do things, and it's done that way for a reason, and it's for your benefit. So the bottom line is, it's great that you really, really want to know what's going on, and it's great that you're really motivated and you want to rise to the top and master it, learn everything there is to know, figure out how I got to be where I am so you can have what I have. Those are awesome things, but you're going to have to take your own journey to get there. Don't not look out the window as you take the journey towards your own mastery. So there's my questions to that. Anybody else here listening for the first time, if you want to know what it is I'm talking about and you want to feel the energy, you can, on the free channel, you can go and do the Awakening the Immortals Qigong. I give it to you for free. There's 2 videos. There's one where I teach you the Qigong, and there's another one where I explain exactly what's happening with the energy. And then there's other energy practices as well. But if you want to get to the fastest energy that you possibly can, go to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong and subscribe. And if you want to learn the highest energy practices, I'm looking for the Maoshan link here. You can go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com. There it is. maoshan.thunderwizard.com. That is the most advanced energy practice, in my experience and opinion, in the world, in the history. If you're talking about just energy in your body and energy in your mind and your emotions, that's it. It doesn't get any more powerful than that. That is, everybody that's practiced that, especially people who have been like internal martial arts or Tai Chi masters, whenever they do any of this stuff, the Celestial Qigong, this stuff, I very often hear back from them that I've been doing this for years. I've never felt anything like this. And this is the most valuable tool that I have to offer you. And you can check it out at any level. Do the free stuff on the YouTube channel. Do the subscription, different levels of the Lightning Qigong. Or if you want to go straight to the top, you can do this, and this. If you want to know the full, how can I learn everything there is to know that you know? Here's how you do it. You do this stuff and this stuff. If you do those two things, you will eventually learn everything that I know. But it's going to take you time. It may take you years. So, but in the process, no matter how far you get, I guarantee you will have a huge transformative physical experience. It won't be intellectual, like you go to church and it won't be that. You will feel a difference within your mind, your body, and your soul. I guarantee it. In fact, I challenge you to do any of the practices, whether the free or the subscription. I challenge you to do it for a month and then tell me that nothing happened. I dare you. All right, that's it for me. Those are the questions that I'm answering today. Let's all shed a tear for me. I wasn't able to go surfing today. That made me very sad. But the waves will show up again. That's it for me, guys. I wish you all the best, and I will see you all very soon. Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at thunderwizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at thunderwizard.com. Get ready, because here I come.